Well, Trevor Zegras is near a comeback, and has Adam Henrique played his final game as an Anaheim Duck? All that and more on this edition of Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for over a decade, and today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. As I mentioned once again, my name is Jason JD Hernandez. I've been covering hockey for well over a decade, also the public address announcer for the Firebirds, and been covering minor league hockey for about as long. All right, let's get started and talk about these rumors. Well, not the rumors first. The rumors are second. We're going to talk about Zegras first, then the rumors. So let's start with this tweet from Eric Stevens from yesterday, from late yesterday. And here's what Eric Stevens said, quote, Trevor Zegras has been off his crutches for more than a week now and been told he could resume skating soon, perhaps in a week or two, working on regaining flexibility and mobility after ankle surgery. Been out since January 9th, end quote. And that comes directly from Eric Stevens. So Z has been out for almost 2 months. He is off his crutches. This sounds like he's going to be back skating soon, but it is February 28th, February 29th now. And the Ducks season is going to end in about 6.5 weeks. Assuming that he can even get back to skating in the next couple of weeks and in game action late next month. Should they be doing this? Is he nearing a return? I wouldn't be surprised if he does return sooner rather than later, just to quell all those rumors that Z is going to get traded. First off, I think some of those rumors are absolutely ridiculous. And the source of some of those rumors are just as bad. Look, the Ducks are not going to give up Trevor Zegras anytime soon. I think it would be foolish to give him up right now. Z hasn't played since the 9th. And even before that injury at Nashville, he was starting to, get a little bit better. He came back around Christmas, and in a handful of games, he got 4 points, including that 2-goal effort against the Red Wings. Remember that? Remember the 2 goals against the Red Wings? And he was finally starting to get more confidence in his skating. The speed was back. Everything was coming back. And then the very next game is when he gets hurt in the first period. So it didn't take long for him to get out. And even coming out against Nashville, he was feeling really good. There was a sense of optimism for the Ducks. And for him to go out immediately after that 2-goal effort is nothing short of demoralizing for the Ducks, but also demoralizing for Trevor Zegras as well. You want to talk about someone that has worked very hard to even get back right after Christmas, only play a handful of games. I think it was 6 games. 7 games since coming back, and scored 4 points. 5 points in those games. So even better. So almost averaging a point a game. And then he gets hurt just like that. That's bad luck. That's not good luck. And now we're seeing, this rumor for Zegras, The reason those rumors even started was because of the Jamie Drysdale trade that took place last month. And that was right around the time that Z got hurt. So of course you're going to have rumors, up and down, left and right. Those rumors are going to happen, unfortunately. But he's coming back soon. At least he's off his crutches. We haven't seen him back. I mean, he does say that he could resume skating soon. That would mean that he'd probably be skating in a red no contact jersey, as far as I'm concerned. So my big question is, should he come back? If you want my opinion on this, I would lean towards No, probably not wanting him to come back this season, because by the time he comes back, the Ducks will probably be mathematically eliminated. So it wouldn't make sense to trot him out there. It wouldn't make sense to rush him. Only put him out there if he is completely 100%. But we have seen the Ducks in the recent past take it very slow with guys getting injured. Jamie Drysdale last season, that was a player that he was skating before last season ended, but he never came back. Could this be the same case with Trevor Zegras? I mean, I would like him to come back. I would like him to get some reps in and get a few games in before the season finishes. I mean, this season, Trevor Zegras' stats have been very, very low, but that's partially because he hasn't played. He's only got 7 points in 20 games this season. Only 20 games. I don't think it would look good from an optics viewpoint if you saw that he only played 20 games in a season and that low point total. That's not Zegras like, folks. Last season, Zegras was one of, if not the best player on the Ducks. Don't forget, he had a good season last year. He was right up there in Rookie of the Year votes. He led the team in points with 65. He was tied for the team lead in goals with 23. He led the team in assists with 42 last year. We know what he can bring. We know that he's not just a quote-unquote trick shot merchant. We know that. Now it's a matter of rounding out the rest of his game, which we know he can do. We know he can round out the rest of his game. We've seen it in the recent past. We saw it in those 7 games when he came back right after Christmas. So now it's just a matter of, should he play? Should he play? I would like it, but at the same time, get him 100% for next season. All right, we're going to step aside. I'm going to talk about the trade bait. There's a lot to talk about there. We will get to that on the other side. Now, a brief word from Gametime. And folks, if you haven't used the Gametime app, what are you waiting for? Gametime is where you can get all your last-minute tickets at the lowest prices guaranteed. And they have everything from flash deals, zone deals. They got deals up until a few hours before the game, and you can get your tickets for super cheap. And they have a lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection, and so much more. Also, you can get your tickets in 2 clicks, and that's it. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We're also brought to you by FanDuel. And folks, if you haven't used FanDuel yet, what are you waiting for? Get your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. And you could bet on all your hockey players, all your favorite hockey players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, futures, by the way, and so much more. Who's going to make the playoffs this season? Could the Seattle Kraken make a push? They had a big win. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and get in on the action. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. And please, folks, gamble responsibly. Let's talk about these trade rumors and the trade bait, because there's a lot of juicy trade bait, and the juiciest bit of trade bait has to do with Adam Henrique. There was a tweet that very recently came out, by the way, that indicates that he may have played his last game. It's sounding like it. In fact, this was even from David Pagnotta that said, talk around Adam Henrique seems to have picked up and should continue to escalate in the coming days. So, has he played his last game? Not so sure about that. Yeah, I'm just going to give a quick thought and then reread the quote. Actually, I'm going to reread the quote. talk around Henrique seems to have picked up and should continue to escalate in the coming days. It's a matter of when, not if, he's traded by the deadline. Ducks all but certain to retain on his deal, which is important because the Ducks are probably going to retain 25 or 50% of his contract. That's very, very important. So now the rumor is that he has already played his final game as an Anaheim Duck. And if that's the case, what a career he's had in Anaheim. He had 133 goals, 127 assists, 260 points in 432 games in Anaheim. He's also 9th in all-time goals for the franchise. He played 4 playoff games. I mean, there really should have been more playoff games, but as is the case, it just wasn't meant to be. So again, 260 points in 432 games is a lot. And I would say that he's probably going to wind up getting half of his salary retained because he's making close to $6 million. And a lot of teams are going to be looking for some cap relief since there's a number of teams that are competing that don't want to spend too much money. That makes sense. And even on TSN Hockey, they've got 4 Ducks in their top 50 as far as trade bait. Adam Henrique is 4th. Frank Vetrano is 8th. I actually got a text from Jared Ellis from Locked On Hurricanes asking about Frank Vetrano. Ilya Lyubushkin is right up there as well. And I'm going to read this text verbatim just because he said, all right, what do the Ducks want for Frank Vetrano? What do they want? You know what, Jared from Locked On Hurricanes, I will tell you what they want. They want a first-round pick. They want a very good prospect. The problem with Carolina is they do not have an AHL team. Let me repeat that. The Carolina Hurricanes do not have an AHL affiliation. Don't forget, there was that whole crappy mess with the Chicago Wolves, who are the only independent team in the American Hockey League. There are currently 31 affiliations in the AHL, and the Carolina Hurricanes are not one of them. So getting a prospect right now is kind of a weird stipulation. So I wouldn't go for a prospect. I would go for draft picks if it's Carolina. And they would better include a first in that. They're better. And Henrique would be a good fit in Carolina. They need some depth. They need some depth scoring. Carolina, I think, is 1 or 2 players away from making some kind of difference. Maybe not. But they need to catch up to the New York Rangers, who are also eyeing Adam Henrique. So I think he's going to wind up in the Eastern Conference. I think those are your 2 top targets. The Hurricanes are a decent top target, but I think New York is still right up there as far as where he could go. And there's a lot of teams that are going to go after him. A lot of teams. And most of the teams that I've heard of that are going after him are in the Eastern Conference. The last time he was in the Eastern Conference, he was with the Devils. Remember that game-winning overtime goal for the Devils in 2012 against the Rangers? I know some Rangers fans are still kind of a little bit jeered about that, a little bit leery about that. But that is a possibility that Henrique could wind up back in the East Coast. As far as Ilya Lyubushkin, I think it is all but certain that he gets dealt as well. Lyubushkin is going to be a UFA after this season. He's at a $2.75 million AAV. There could be some retained salary as well, but the Ducks have so much salary, they could afford to retain it right now and just get draft picks. Plus, there's a severe backlog, or I shouldn't say a logjam, rather, of defensemen. Jackson Lacombe, he should get in the lineup more. Olen Zellweger is still mired in San Diego. I've said for the longest time that Olen Zellweger belongs in the NHL, and I think this would be a case that you do trade Lyubushkin, try to find somewhere to put him. That would be some depth defenseman right there. I mean, teams are always looking for a 5th or 6th defenseman at this point. And this would also be good for Olen Zellweger. He could use some playing time in the NHL. He could get some minutes along with Lacombe, along with, Mintyukov could get some good time with him as well. So there's a lot of possibilities and a lot of mixing and matching with young defensemen. Maybe they're the ones that could cover Cam Fowler. Yes, I just said that. Sam Carrick is also kind of a target there. I mean, he's a little bit lower on the list. I don't know if Carrick is going to get traded, but that's a possibility as well. But I'd say the top 3 Ducks that could get traded are Vetrano, are Lyubushkin, and of course Adam Henrique. And Vetrano being, towards the top of that trade target list is a little bit, I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, he's got some term on his contract. So which team wants to also get that additional year or 2 on his contract? Maybe they'll want to trade for him and get an extension. Who knows? So that's some of what's going on. Also, we just saw that GM Pat Verbeek was recently spotted in the Carolina-Minnesota game, which is why I got the text from Jared Ellis saying, what do the Hurricanes want from him? Pat Verbeek was at the Carolina-Minnesota game. Minnesota are going to be sellers, so I don't think they're going to go after Henrique. I think it's going to be Carolina as one of the teams that could go for his services. And by the way, folks, the trade deadline is coming up very, very fast. The trade deadline is March 8th. So that is, doing some math, that is 8 to 9 days away. Next Friday is going to be stupid busy. Stupid busy. And by the way, just so you know, we'll have clipping stations, we'll have live updates leading up to the trade deadline. Next week is going to be just really busy. All right, we're going to head into the second intermission right now and talk about some local hockey stuff going on. Stay locked in. Now, a brief word from eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. Patience underlined, by the way, is what brings home the winning trophy, and also it keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Welcome back to Locked On Anaheim Ducks, part of TLOPN or Tlopin. Once again, you're locked in with Jason JD Hernandez. Let's talk about some local hockey taking place. And this is going to be a little bit self-serving here, but this is something that I want to talk about a lot for the next couple of days because it's important to me, but also important to the growth of junior hockey in Southern California. The USPHL is a junior A league with a few teams out here in the Southern California area. They have a team in San Diego called the San Diego Sabres. They have the Bakersfield Roughnecks. They have a team in Las Vegas called the Thunderbirds. And Ontario also has a team, the Junior A, which I also do public address for, by the way. I don't just do public address here for the Firebirds. I'm not just saying Firebirds goal. No, I'm doing that for juniors as well. And this weekend, they are taking part in a best of 3 series against the Las Vegas Thunderbirds. And why am I bringing this up? Because one of the assistant coaches is a former Anaheim Duck, by the way. Andrew O'Brien. Remember Andrew O'Brien, his brief time in Anaheim? He is one of the assistant coaches. Super cool guy, by the way. He's hoping to guide this junior team to a deep playoff run. They are the number 2 seed, and that grants them home ice advantage for this first round. And just to kind of go around the Pacific Division, number 1 is the Fresno Monsters. They take on the number 4 Bakersfield Roughnecks. Number 2 is Ontario. They have home ice taking on number 3 Las Vegas Thunderbirds. And there's some quality talent on this junior team. And one guy that I need to mention is Caden LaRock Wolf, who scored 51 goals this season. One of only 2 players to score 50 this season. And by the way, this league averages 1 to 2 50-goal scorers per season. So 50 is a big number, and it's a big deal. So a player to look out for is Caden LaRock Wolf, 51 goal scorer this season. Goaltending is also a plus this season. The Junior Reign boasts one of the most disciplined teams this season. So just something to watch out for. By the way, shout out to Coach Jeremy Bloomis, who has led this team in its 3 years in existence. All 3 years, they've made the playoffs, and they've improved every season. So I just want to bring this up because I think it's important to talk about youth hockey and junior hockey. I mean, I think about what's happened here in Coachella. The Junior Firebirds, they just started this season. A lot of these kids hadn't skated or learned to play hockey before this year, and they all of a sudden had a good showing on their junior tournament for President's Day just last weekend. They won their final game of the season, wound up in third place. And now this junior team, they could have a pretty good playoff run as well. So keep an eye out for that. If you want to check that out, the home games this weekend will be at Ontario Center Ice Arena. I would love to see as many of you there as possible because I think it's important for the growth of hockey in this Southern California area. And it's important to support junior hockey. It's super important. And you never know which of these guys can make it to the ECHL, the AHL, the NHL. And I bring this up here at Acrisure Arena because one of the most famous athletes, or one of the most famous players that played in the USPHL Premier is none other than Joey Decord. Yes, that Joey Decord who got a shutout in the Winter Classic. Yes, that Joey Decord who led the Firebirds here last season. He played in the USPHL, and look how far he came. Some would say he's kind of a late bloomer, but you never know what kind of talent you will see in these junior leagues. So, come out and support once again this coming Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, if necessary, at Ontario Center Ice Arena. Junior Reign taking on the Las Vegas Thunderbirds, and support Coach O'Brien while you're at it too. All right, that's going to do it for this podcast. Once again, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back with Locked On Goals tomorrow, since it is Goals Thursday tomorrow. So be sure to stay tuned for that. In the meantime, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, this podcast is free and available across all platforms, including Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, etc., etc. You can follow me on X at StimpyJD. Comme ça. The show's X is at LO_X. You could email me at lockedonanaheimducks@gmail.com. And once again, thank you all for your continued support. It is so greatly appreciated. For Locked On Anaheim Ducks, I'm Jason J.D. Hernandez, saying have a great rest of the day. Please remember to be safe out there, be kind to one another, and Ducks fly together. Yep, still here. That was a fun one. Can't wait till Goals Thursday, guys.